Andrew, how did you get involved with Martin Scorsese on this Project Silence?
Yeah, it was a really surprising occurrence. I was in New York shooting something else, and I was told that he had this script for a long time, and he'd been trying to make it, and maybe this was the time that it was going to happen finally. So I read it, and I was deeply moved by it, and kind of my mind was kind of poleaxed by it. And about 3 or 4 weeks later, I was in a room with him and reading scenes with him and talking to him, getting to know him, and it was a really incredible meeting. It was one of those things where you go, this is a very surreal thing, and you don't expect to ever be in this situation, and so you kind of make sure you enjoy it and you're present for it, and you don't have any expectations about whether you're going to ultimately go and shoot the film. So I really just allowed myself to be as present as possible, and to meet this master and to spend time working on this project with him. And then ultimately he asked me to do it, and there was no hesitation. I just kind of thought, well, let's get going right now, and I'm ready, kind of thing.
So when he first reached out, it wasn't necessarily an offer as much as, would you be interested?
Yeah, I think he had seen a bit of my work, but he wasn't all that familiar with it. And I know a few of us read, I think 5 or 6 of us read for him. Obviously he wanted to know if I would have been interested, otherwise I don't think he would have met me. But I think I exhibited an understanding of the struggle of this character. I somehow understood it, and I somehow found it to be quite compelling. And I think that he really picked up on that, and I think he gave me the impression he hadn't met many actors that really wanted to go on this journey, actually. That understood what the journey was about, what the struggle was.
Lucky for you, it wasn't 20 or 30 years ago when he made it, or you would not have been old enough.
I'm very, very grateful, yeah, that he's taken him so long to make this damn film.
What was the process like? It seems like just the story itself is very grueling. Was it a grueling shoot?
It was, yeah. It was very, very difficult. But it was the kind of difficult that is very enriching and very propelling. You know, the kind of challenges that make you work that much harder and push yourself that much further. I think everyone felt that, all the cast and the crew. And Marty himself was climbing up these cliff's edges and getting stuck in the mud, and all the camera crew were kind of having to lug this very heavy equipment through the most impossible of conditions. And then it would start raining, and then it would start fogging, and then it would be blaring sun, and you'd be sweating. So it was this incredibly harrowing, exposure to the natural elements. But ultimately, it was all very useful, I think, in terms of the performances, but also for Rodrigo Prieto, the cinematographer. He was very facile with how he, framed a scene and used light. He was not precious with his pre-existing ideas of how a scene should look. Him and Marty were very fluid on the day in terms of what God gave them to work with, you know.
How long was the shoot?
I think it was about 4 months ultimately. And it was tight, even though that's a long time, because there's a lot to achieve. There's a lot to cover. But ultimately, I'm really, really proud of what Marty's done. I think he's done something quite profound.
It's a beautiful movie to look at, even beyond all the performances and such. What was your first reaction on seeing it all put together?
So I hadn't watched any dailies, and I hadn't looked at the monitor once. I just kind of wanted to live the experience of the character. And so when I first saw it, I was in Marty's screening room in New York, in his offices, and it was very, very deeply moving, just because I could feel all of the work that everyone had put into it, especially Marty. And it felt like a long prayer to me. It all just felt like a prayer, like a meditation, and so profoundly personal for him.
As the movie starts, it's you and Adam Driver off on this journey. What was he like to work with?
Oh, I love Adam. He's an incredible actor, and this very unique and special and spontaneous performer, and very powerful performer. And I loved not only getting to know him, but then of course being partners in crime in this was a really, it's very easy to love him too. So that was very useful.
You don't have many scenes with Liam Neeson, but speaking of powerful, he just blazes his eyes right through you in this performance.
Amazing, yeah,
What's
amazing.
He like?
Oh, I love Liam. You know, we had spent a day together in New York, and then I asked if he would be okay if the next time we saw each other would be when he appears in that scene, because I wanted it to be as meaningful and as fresh as possible. And Marty had 2 cameras on me, and we kind of just shot it. So that was incredibly exciting. That was very very cool that he was game for that. Yeah, and just an incredible actor.
I love the fact that you get to call him Marty now. Did you ever think 5 or 6 years ago you'd be calling him Marty?
It's a very strange, surreal thing, and but of course when you meet him and get to know him, he is Marty. That's all he is. He's just Marty, and you know he's no he doesn't act any better or worse than anybody else. He's incredibly humble, and you know he's just a person like all the great ones are. You know, they say don't meet your heroes, but Marty is an exception to that rule.
He's been doing this for 45, 50 years, and we've seen, I'm sure, a lot of his movies. How is he different in person and as a director than you expected?
I was really blown away by his humility, by his ability to let a scene define itself. By he's lacking. He wasn't imposing upon the process. He wasn't didactic with the actors. He was very collaborative. He was incredibly trusting of his actors. That I found to be really heartening and surprising. And also, you know, there's a part of me that just wanted him to tell me what to do, but he refused. He was like, I hired you because I trust you, so just do trust yourself. That was an amazing aspect of him as a filmmaker, and his understanding of the actor's process. I mean, you know, he's worked with the greats, so he knows the impossibility of accessing the moment in the purest way, and he wants to set it up so that the actors feel like they can do that.
You've got the 2 movies out at the same time, Hacksaw Ridge also. Let's start with, what was a similarity between, say, Mel Gibson and Martin Scorsese in directing?
Yeah, well, they're both incredibly passionate about their subjects. They are, again, very, very trusting of the people they hire. They are good leaders in the sense that they will encourage you towards going further than you've gone in your work so far. And they will also leave you to your own devices if you need no help, and they will ride you if you do, and then they will make sure that the scene is complete before we move on. Very, very. It's all you really want as an actor is to be able to show up and you know serve up your heart and soul, and to have it seen, and to have it recognized, and to have it adjusted if need be. That trust is so vital. So those are the similarities, or some of them. There are others, but the differences are a lot too. You know, Mel is very active and physical, and kind of all instinct and heart, and kind of no filter. And Marty is very contemplative and quiet, and requires that kind of quiet on set a lot of the time. Not all the time. Sometimes he's cracking jokes and messing around with everybody, but mostly when there's something sacred about to happen, he creates a sacred space for it. You know, he really treats the set like it's his church. You know, and it's an incredible privileged space to be in with him as an actor.
On Silence, a favorite scene that you shot?
Seeing Liam for the first time, seeing Father Ferreira for the first time was a profoundly favorite. I really felt like something special was happening between us. Also, one of my favorite scenes would be with after the apostasy, and you cut a few years into the future, and Father Rodriguez and Kichichiro are having tea, still hanging out after all these years. There was something very beautiful about that scene, and very profoundly wise about the connection between them, and the gratitude that Rodriguez has for Kichichiro kind of filled my heart.
When you finish a day like that and you know this was a good scene to shoot, what's your reaction when you go home for the evening?
Well, on this particular film, I spent the rest of the night trying not to eat, because we had to stay as kind of malnourished as possible. So every night was very regimented for me. I would get home, I would shower, I would pour out my half a cup of soup, Oh my god, it was brutal. And then like a handful of blueberries, and I would try not to look in the fridge after that, and then I would I would try to fall asleep as quickly as possible, which is hard because, as we all know, falling asleep on an empty stomach is a really tricky thing. And I would have very weird dreams, and then get up again and drink 8 cups of black coffee and try and get through the day. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
And the first day after you were done with the regiment, you did what?
Oh my god, it was disgusting what I did. I was a real piece of work. No, it was really interesting. Food became. I just had a different relationship with food after this film. I'm kind of back to normal now-ish, but it was weird. It was like kind of anticlimactic. I really enjoyed the stripping away of any excess. There was something really, that's why people fast, I guess, is because it's very spiritually fulfilling.
Makes you focus.
Yeah, absolutely, and it makes you're able to listen and hear things in a deeper way. I think internally, externally. Makes you much more permeable, much more sensitive, in a good way and in a tricky way.
On Hacksaw, a favorite scene that you shot there?
In shooting, gosh, the first day of shoot was pretty great. We did all the assault course stuff in the training camp. That was a really great way to start, diving into the mud and climbing all those ropes and ladders, and that was really, really fun. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed that. But I have to say, there was a lot of really tremendous scenes for me in that I really, really enjoyed. Really loved working with all the actors. But the scene that comes to mind is the scene with Luke Bracey when Smitty and Desmond are in the foxhole together and they kind of reveal who they are to each other. That thing of the terror and the PTSD of the day has broken down any barrier between them, and they're just kind of two guys that need each other. That felt like a pretty profound scene.
Vince Vaughn is just amazing.
Oh, he's wonderful, yeah.
Tell me that he made up some of those lines, because they just felt like Vince Vaughn lines.
Yes, a lot of them were written. He was very loyal to the writing, but then he improvised around a lot, and it was one of those impossible days where everyone was laughing so hard that it was hard to actually get a clean take of anything. No, he's a total genius. A lovely man.
You've been nominated for Hacksaw, Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, SAG Awards. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this whole awards run for this particular role?
I'm not going to complain about it. I feel very grateful about it, about and kind of surprised and very, very moved by it, really. It's lovely to feel like you're being your work is being appreciated, and it's reassuring. It means you carry on doing it and you hopefully push further and try harder and keep creating things that are true to who you are. Because with these two projects, I do feel like they're two projects that feel very close to me personally, and I feel like there's a lot of me in them in a very personal way. So to have that opportunity is amazing, and then to have it recognized by certain bodies is really very moving, very moving.
A lot of us thought you were going to get an Oscar nomination for Social Network, and it just didn't happen. So what if one of these two projects brings you to the Oscars as a nominee, not just as a presenter?
Yeah, I don't know. It would be. I mean, who doesn't want that? It would be. It's a lovely thought. But as you know, these things are what they are, and they're in the laps of the gods, and the work's done. So it's really up to the gods to make those decisions. But yeah, it's the Academy is a thing that means something to me. It's about excellence and about it's about recognizing work that hopefully is hitting people in a deep way, and that's all I want to do with my life. So it of course would be lovely, and I'll get over it if it doesn't happen.
of all things, you were invited to join the Academy last summer. So
Yeah.
on this cycle here, where you've got two outstanding projects, you get to vote for the first time.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to most about voting?
Oh man, I don't know. Being a part of that process is a privilege because that act of celebrating other people's work, I love that more than anything. I love it when I get to, I've become quite close with a young actor, Lucas Hedges, over the course of this period, and we've had a pretty wonderful connection, and I'm such an admirer of the work that he's done in Manchester by the Sea, and there's something very special about being around people that you admire, that you can trade stories with and talk each other through all the madness of all this, and make sure we're all holding on to what's real. So that's been a really wonderful thing, and the countless other people that I'm, nominated with in certain things. It's a real privilege, to be stood there alongside Denzel Washington and Casey Affleck and Ryan. I feel very, just very honored.
If you get in, I mean, it's such a tremendous year for movies that I think when you have such a great year, that means even more.
Yeah, sure. I know. It would be lovely. I don't know what to say about it.
I know. For awards websites, I definitely want to get into
No,
things.
totally. Yeah.
And with Screen Actors Guild, they're all so different from each other. Golden Globes is the Foreign Press, and Screen Actors Guild. I imagine that's a whole different other kind of feeling to know that you've had that ensemble nomination for Social
Network. Yeah.
What's it like to be recognized by your peers in the Actors Guild?
That's something that does feel very, very special. I have to say, I did wake up that morning feeling, just incredibly grateful, because that feeling of how lucky one is to just work as an actor, and then to work on things that you really care about, like this film and Hacksaw, and speak of you and what you want to express in the world, and then to have your peers give you a pat on the back for it. It's doesn't get better than that, really, to be honest.
When you and I saw each other after the Academy screening of Hacksaw, Desmond's son was there, and you were quite touched just having gotten to speak with him.
Yeah, very, very.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
It was very, very moving. It was the first time I'd seen him and spoken to him, and we didn't really speak for the first 5 or 6 minutes. We were just kind of looking at each other, choked up, and just kind of appreciating each other in some strange cosmic way. And then Desmond felt like he was present between us. It was very, very moving. He was very, very moved by the film and by the depiction of his father. That means to me more than anyone else's feelings about it, even more than mine. The fact that he felt like his father was represented, and his mother for that matter, has to be said. He felt like Teresa was his mother. That is the highest compliment and the highest reassurance I could have been given, and I just kind of thanked him and just showered him with love and thanks for showing up and being there and being so generous, and you could feel that he was his father's son.
Last question. It's interesting that you got two movies roughly at the same time, but also they're both very much about faith.
Yeah.
Both of these characters have a lot, everything in their world resides on their faith. How do you compare the two characters in terms of that?
Yeah, very different. I think if Rodriguez suffers and struggles with his ego in a way that maybe Desmond doesn't. Father Rodriguez, the cross that he has to bear, the sacrifice that he has to make is so great. It's not his body; it's his need for glory, his egotistical need, and the doctrine, the ideology that has been so deeply ingested into his soul that he has to betray the one thing that he loves in order to serve the thing that he loves. This is such a conundrum and such a mystery, the mystery of what it is to live a life of faith. In order to live a life of faith, he has to abandon his faith. It's a very strange position. It's a martyrdom, but it's not the physical kind. He has to martyr the small self, in order to serve the divine, in order to serve God truly. Desmond's sacrifice is a little simpler in a weird way. he sacrifices his body over and over and over again in order to serve his fellow man. He's compelled to. It's not an idea. It's not an intellectualized thought. If I do this, this, and this, then I'll get this, this, and this. It's if I love people, and I am so full of grief and heartsick from what I'm seeing my brothers doing to each other, that I have to be an equalizer. I have to be a healer among so many wounded and those inflicting the wounds. All I can do is heal. That's a compulsion. That's a conviction that he has, that he can't escape, no matter how much he would like to. I'm sure he would like to pick up the gun and wave it around and protect himself if he needed to. But the conviction in him is so strong and such a knowing. It's like a body knowing that he has, like a deep bone soul knowing. And he gets this weird protection while he's up on that ridge.